Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at onpurposely.com.
Welcome to the Gospel Tech Podcast, a resource for parents who feel overwhelmed and outpaced as they raise healthy youth in a tech world. As an educator, parent, and tech user, I want to equip parents with the tools, resources, and confidence they need to raise kids who love God and use tech. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Gospel Tech Podcast. My name is Nathan Sutherland, and this podcast is dedicated to helping families love God and use tech. This is the mini-series of the Gospel Tech Podcast. This is What the Tech, and I am here with
Micah Roberts.
And we are here to go through episode 4. This is a little bit of a gamer gush episode. We had lots of ideas, like we almost took on NFTs for an episode.
Yeah, no. No.
And by almost, I mean I suggested it, and Mike was like, yeah, no.
But yeah, we've had a lot of thoughtful, introspective discussion on topics, but we don't want you to think that we don't just like video games.
Yes, yeah, we but seriously, today you're gonna think we just like video games, because it is a bit of a gamer gush. We ended up coming with like a compromise because, so that you, the listener, knows, I have a rather complicated love story with video games, ending with basically 11 years ago, me not being able to play games anymore because I don't have a dial. I only have a Switch, and I'm either 110% in on video games or I'm out. But that has not killed my love of video games, the fact that I played them for 20 plus years, or any of those things. It's just meant that to be a healthful adult and intentional child of God, I need to put priorities first, and games can't be it. But Micah, still an active gamer. Yeah. So we're going to go through kind of 3 things we love about games and some games that represent that well. And I am going to go through 3 things that kind of drive me up the wall, and especially in this decade plus of me not playing games, that I've watched as the gaming industry's kind of pivoted, and what we used to call a game almost doesn't qualify anymore. So that's going to be our kind of 3 awesomes and 3 cautions, I guess, about video games. Does that seem right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, why don't you start us off? What's one thing you love about video games? Why? Oh, better yet, because you might not be a gamer listening to this. What should non-gamers know about games that are awesome?
Well, first, they're fun.
Yeah.
But a lot of that fun, I think, comes from challenge.
All right.
Because there is a desire for games that are very hard.
Like
Something like... there's a genre of game called roguelikes. I don't expect you to know what that is, but basically, you start out at basically nothing. You're super weak,
okay,
and you go through a dungeon or what have you, a thing that's level-based, and as you go through the levels, you get gear, abilities, and upgrades that make you more powerful with the end goal of beating some final boss. And if at any point in this progression from level 1 to 5, for example, you die, you go back to level 1, 100% restart.
Okay. So just huge penalty for dying.
Yes.
And then do you just play through the exact same level?
It's most of them are randomized each time.
Okay.
So the room layouts will be different. The gear you find, the upgrades you find will be different.
And this is fun.
This is fun.
Why?
It's just because the base game is fun,
yeah.
And normally as you get more gear and level up, it's just a satisfying progression, and then trying and failing to beat a boss, and then eventually the final boss, when you beat it, it's amazing.
Just the sense of success of I did it. It's over. And this is, what's a game you have then for an example of this?
There's a few of them. I play a game called Noita. There's another one called Enter the Gungeon. But probably one of the best is probably a game called Hades.
And the premise?
The story of it is it's Greek Roman god themed. You're Zagreus, the son of Hades, stuck in Hades.
Okay.
And you're just trying to get to the surface, and you have to progress through 5 layers of hell and then the surface.
Okay.
And then
and it's super cartoony, right?
It's like a cartoon art style. It's made by Supergiant. They got really good cartoon art direction, and
Okay.
The story is really good because as you go through, you can talk to all the people in like you have like a commons area before you do a run, essentially.
Okay.
You can talk to people, and in this one, you can permanently upgrade yourself with some stuff that you find in
So if
the
you
run.
died, you don't start all the way back at zero. Eventually, you can like build up.
Yeah, there's a currency system that you get that's not gold, it's something else. Because gold you get in a run to spend on stuff in a run, but when you're out and you die, you lose all that stuff and you lose all your gold.
Okay.
But this currency stays and you can spend it in like the little hub world area.
Okay.
On like permanent upgrades, like an extra life, like you can dash, you can get more dashes, stuff like that.
Okay. All right. So Hades is an example of a roguelike. Roguelike is an example of a game that you like because they're challenging.
They're challenging, but not like beat your head against the wall challenging. They're fair to an extent.
Okay.
Because like most, if it's good, you'll never die by like some stupid game reason. You'll die because you messed up.
Right.
And like, oh, I should have taken this perk instead of that perk, or I should have bought this weapon instead of that weapon because I knew this boss was coming up or whatever.
Right. So you can like, it's a solvable puzzle.
Yeah,
Not just
essentially.
an infinite amount of time.
Yeah,
and
it's a
eventually you'll get
solvable puzzle, but every time you put a piece in the wrong spot, the puzzle resets.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a cool way of thinking of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would have to say like one of mine that would fit this from like, again, we're going nostalgia time because it's been a decade, but like Legend of Zelda, like that series, and specifically Link to the Past. Like there's problem solving, you need the right tool in the right spot. You will get stuck for times, but like when you finally figure it out, be like, oh, the bomb goes on that spot, and then it blows up, and then I can get through. Oh,
Yeah, I bomb this wall, and then I use the lantern to see in the dark, and there's a hook shot point over here.
right. Like I can finally put all the pieces together. And yes, in the age of the internet, people can just Google their problems a lot faster. But
Yes.
please don't do that with fun games because the whole point is that it's a game. Like just let it be a game. But anyway, that's the challenge of it. All right. Would you want to go further into the challenge, or do you want to share your second?
I mean, the second kind of leads into the challenge because there is a game studio. So the studio that makes games called From Software, based out of Japan. They make a series of games called Dark Souls.
Oh, yeah.
That are notorious for being hard.
Would you put them on the fair end of things, or are they edging towards unfair?
For the most part, yes.
Which side?
Fair.
Okay, all right.
There are like certain bosses that like are a little jank. They're not programmed 100% right. That are unfair, but for the most part, it is 100% fair. It is more demanding than a roguelike, I'd say, because the premise of Dark Souls not dissimilar from a roguelike actually. So you spawn. There's a story. It's complicated. We don't need to get into the story here. But your spawn, it's like kind of like dark fantasy themed, like Lord of the Rings, but a little bit more depressing.
Quite a bit. Yes, go on.
And you go through areas, and at the end of an area is a boss, but it's not like levels. It's all one continuous thing. Yeah. So you could run from the beginning of the game to the end of the game. There's no like loading screens or anything, unless you can teleport between your checkpoints. Okay. Your checkpoints, they're bonfires. At a checkpoint, whenever you rest at it, you regain all your health, any reusable items that you have, but also enemies that you killed are now respawned. Yes. Because you have healing, and you start out with like 3 or 4, and you can get more healing charges as you go. So you rest. If you run out, you're out. You got to find another checkpoint. If you ever die in it, you lose your currency, which you use to level up, buy weapons, all this stuff to make yourself stronger. If you die with like 10,000 their souls, I'll say that. Yeah. If you die with 10,000 souls, they drop exactly where you are. You respawn with nothing in terms of money, but your health and all your items are respawned. And you have to go through all the enemies you mowed down to get those 10,000 souls again to pick them up.
What if you die in the process, though?
The souls are gone forever.
Okay, so you get one shot
to get
all your stuff back.
Yeah. But so it's not when you die, you lose everything. When you die, you lose currency and progress. And
half of everything.
Pretty much.
And that's fun. Like, why is that challenge enjoyable?
It's
If you were explaining this to me, like I have not played this game because
it's
this came out
enjoyable.
after.
First off, if the game, like the actual combat, like fighting the enemies and the boss and stuff, wasn't fun, this game would suck.
Yeah.
But the actual combat itself, fighting the enemies, is a lot of fun. The bosses are almost always amazing to fight and a big challenge. But the like losing everything, I don't know, it just makes you take it seriously. It just forces you to take the game seriously. Because with like something like Uncharted, which is like kind of like a Hollywood movie in a video game, you don't spend currency, you're just going like along a path. It's like a roller coaster essentially.
Right.
So you just
It's like the old James Bond video game.
Yeah, pretty much. You just go into an area, kill the enemies, and then like fight a boss or get to this room to like unlock this box that has these documents or whatever. Like if you die, you just respawn like 2 minutes before. Exactly in the same place you were 2 minutes before.
Right.
But in Dark Souls, it's not like you die, you go back. It's like a die, you respawn somewhere, but you're just always moving forward. You never lose progress literally. Because like if you beat a boss, they're dead. Bosses stay dead.
Okay.
And like if you get items, those items stay in your inventory. It's just the souls that you lose. So like there is always progression no matter what. And it just forces you to take the game seriously, because most enemies can kill you even at high levels. So you can't just like, unless you're really good, you can't just run past them. Yeah.
Yeah, so you have to take, like, you have to practice. You have to know how your character works. You have to know your strengths and weaknesses, because your builds, especially in the later Dark Souls, can change.
So yeah, you can be anywhere from using, like me, only the biggest sword feasible to man, or you could use like two wielding swords and like being really fast.
Okay.
Or use like magic or like range, like bows and stuff. Like there's a lot of options.
Okay.
And no matter what you choose, you have to, at some level, to actually finish the game at all, learn the ins and outs of how your build works and like the attack patterns of the enemies.
And this is unique to video games specifically because, one, like movies wouldn't be challenged. Like there's no challenge in watching a movie.
The only challenge in movies is like if it's like a challenging message or like a challenging subject matter. Like Schindler's List is a challenging movie.
Okay, because you have to intellectually like digest it.
Yeah, but not games are sometimes both.
Okay.
And that's what I like about games, which is the third game that I like. It's a less known game because it's what you'd call an indie game.
Okay.
A game made by an independent studio.
Okay.
Because Supergiant, which made Hades, they're like kind of like halfway between a AAA big budget studio like From Software. Okay. From Software is a huge studio owned by Bandai Namco.
Okay.
Supergiant's like halfway in between there. I don't even know the name of the studio that made Before Your Eyes. Okay. But Before Your Eyes is nothing like the last two games. It is a narrative only game. There's no combat. There's no fighting. I don't even think there's like a fail state. You can't lose this game. But it's a unique way of storytelling that only video games can do. Because it is, the name Before Your Eyes is a reference to the fact that it uses your webcam. It uses eye tracking technology through a webcam to track every time you blink, which sounds weird, but it's because you go through this story as a child in the first person perspective, through like being a baby all the way through, you know, life stuff. And every time you blink, you like skip forward 1 year of your life, 2 years of your life, 4 years of your life. You never know. Every time you blink, you skip forward in the story. Okay. And the game's not gonna like let you finish a thing if you accidentally blinked because your eyes were tired. If you're in the middle of like a hard conversation with your spouse and like you want to like navigate this conversation right, but you blink, you're just going to skip the conversation. You're not going to know how it ended up.
Is it interactive? Like, can you click like say, no, you're right, we need to talk this out?
You can choose dialogue options. Okay. And like there's one point where like you're like learning piano and your mother is like hounding you to like become good at piano, and you can choose to like actually learn the recital and like get into this prestigious school, or there's like this like love interest you've had since you first moved to your house, and she like wants to hang out that night, and you can go to that, and then the piano recital is way harder to do.
And so then that is like, I think that's worth pausing on, because that the first two I think were more of what we have in our minds when we think video games. We think games titled things like Hades or Dark Souls, games that involve challenge. Certainly when Mario first came out, for people of my generation, it was challenging, even though
it's even now still challenging. Yeah.
But it's a different kind of challenging.
Yeah.
But I mean, we didn't know how to jump stuff. We didn't know you could carry momentum.
Exactly.
We didn't we were still learning, like, what can you jump underneath and have it react? You can jump out of the screen and find secret passageways. Like, had no idea that was even an option.
Yeah. But in the same way, Mario had like no story. There was
excuse me, Peach needed saving.
Oh wow. But yeah, that was where it started and ended.
Yeah.
The princess was kidnapped. Go save the princess.
Yeah.
She's to the right.
Yes, she is. Typically over that flagpole.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
There's been a trend in games like Uncharted, like I mentioned, where games now are way more story driven than they used to be.
Yeah.
It's no longer just there's a princess in a castle. Like in Dark Souls, the story is you are a being made of ash to relight the fire that keeps the world in order. And you're made of ash of fallen warriors that failed to light it in the past because you're the last hope and like the last option. Like, it's insane.
Yeah.
And like Hades, you're the son of Hades trying to escape out of Tartarus and all of that. And before your eyes it's a way more challenging story. Like, because it's in a similar vein to That Dragon Cancer, because this will be spoilers for the game if you care to play it, because you go through your whole life from childhood to adulthood, and eventually you can the path I chose, because you can choose a bunch. I gave up music to pursue my relationship with this girl in high school, and then eventually we got married. I became an artist and like lived my life happily. But then you get ripped out of that, because you get ripped to this weird, like, kind of like dreamlike dimension where you're talking to like this dude with a cat head, and he's like, that's not how your life went down. And you're like, huh? He's like, you need to stop lying to me. How did it actually go down? What was your mother really like?
Okay.
And he's like confronting you, and you go through the story again, but the options that were like, they weren't there at the beginning, but they're the ones you should take. You eventually find that this is like, in the beginning, you're dead. You're in the afterlife. And this dude's like the ferryman to the afterlife.
Okay.
And he asks you to remember your life. And you were lying, because the reality was you never got to do any of this because you died of a disease when you were 9. And the game, like,
is that like the end of it?
Yeah, that's the end.
That has to be absolutely wrecking you as a player.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
Well, it's amazing. The story is amazing because it's super moving and touching and makes you think about your life.
Yeah.
But I don't like, nothing else can do that except video games, you know?
And why is that? Like, why are video games such a unique avenue? Because, I mean, you mentioned things like Schindler's List, which is a powerful experience and had an impact on a lot of people.
But it's just a passive thing.
Okay.
You don't interact with it at all. You interact with it by popping in the disc or pressing play on Netflix, you know?
Yeah.
But like this, like, in before your eyes, I made these decisions. And again, this is on the backbone of, if I want to see this story, I have to keep my eyes open. I can't blink.
Right. So it's demanding something of you to be able to do it.
There was a point, as an example, where I was just in the school and I was sitting next to this girl, the girl that's your love interest. Yeah. And this was before you knew what your feelings for each other was. And you're just in school during a lecture and you had to take notes. And eventually your eyes are open, not blinking. You don't have to not blink for for like the whole game, but they're like, it'll go through the story section, and then at a certain point, like a metronome will pop up. It's like, if you blink from this point, we'll go to the next scene.
Okay. All right.
And I get this note handed to me, but the teacher catches it before I can read it, and he takes it up to the class to read it. and he's like, I had your character's name. I can't remember, like Dave or whatever. Dave, please stop accepting notes from your. And then I blinked. I have no idea what he was gonna say at that point. Was he gonna say that it's my girlfriend, my like friend? Was she my cousin at the time? I didn't know. I didn't know anything at that point, and I missed it. It wasn't until like 4 scenes later, which was the next scene with the girl. I was like, oh, I do like this girl, and she does like me. But like if I didn't blink, maybe I would have known sooner, and maybe I could have made decisions sooner. You know, I don't know. It's not a 1-to-1 recreation of like your choices in real life affect who you are, but it's a good representation of that in game, where your memory. The game is all about how your memories shape who you are.
And I guess so. Then that would be the question, really, of like when we talk about the benefits of games. I mean, you've said the challenge of a game is huge. Like games need to be challenging. Another is that they need to have some kind of storyline. It sounds like all three of the ones you've mentioned at least have like this engrossing storyline.
Yeah, that's at least what I value in games. There are a bunch of games that, like a game I completed recently, Kentucky Route Zero. It's just a point and click game. There's no combat or anything.
Yeah.
You just go through a story and choose dialogue, and in the end you're sad because it's a good story. Way too complicated for me to sum up, but it's the game is essentially if like the next great American novel, like To Kill a Mockingbird or Catcher in the Rye, was a video game.
Yeah, which is because I mean it's effectively like supposed to be a representation of the journey of COVID, right? Like of individuals dealing with like loss and isolation, and like you can the breakdown of society.
You can see it like that. The original interpretation was like it's like a ghost story, but the ghost story is the American dream.
Okay.
On the people who still believe in it, essentially.
Okay. Yeah, which I think is worth noting that like a lot of video games that want to tell a story have a story that's really dark. Like very few of these are coming out with stories that are like hopeful or like it's worth being here. Like
they are still hopeful, but video games, media in general, but video games especially now more than ever, pre-COVID and especially post-COVID, have just been way more confrontational about just existence in general. Yeah. Because like media when I was a kid, in the early 2000s, music especially, was just like only a distraction essentially. It was the music was like, it was crunk music and it was EDM and it was like trap music. It was all like party music. Look at the good time you're having, like Black Eyed Peas.
Yeah.
Like they literally, like Will.i.am, the lead singer of it, like they said they wanted to make escapism music. In like the time of the 2008 financial crisis, like they wanted an escape for people in trying times. The media like that still exists. I mean, that is like Call of Duty, League of Legends, CS:GO. That is just like dopamine food. Doesn't really compel you to think about anything other than you playing the game.
Right.
But video games are, at least the games that I enjoy and indie games, they're moving towards a direction that like makes you think about yourself, the people around you, the world you live in, like your place in it. It's way more introspective than they've ever been.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think as an outsider, one of my concerns is actually that's sometimes the last spot that people have the conversation, though, is because the experience was so powerful that it can almost make the real life outputs of those experiences like, great, you recognize the frailty of your mortality and the limited number of choices and days that we get within, the sequence of our short little feeble lives.
Yeah.
And then the outcome is, man, that was such a powerful experience. I want to experience that again. Now I want to now go live my life to the fullest out here with these real broken people that are hard to deal with, but I want to feel that kind of alive. And that kind of alive is hard to match in real life. Like that epic boss win in real life doesn't come 11 times in a sequence of events. Like it just doesn't, like you don't level up that often. And oftentimes you don't realize you leveled up until like years later.
Yeah, exactly.
And
there's no like meter that's filling up when you like progress your mental health to a healthy stat. You know, you're not going to know you're healthy basically until you're far enough removed from you being unhealthy to realize, oh, yeah, I'm better now.
Yeah, right. And that's a lot, like even like a lot of the, man, this is why when I was actually not able to sleep this morning and laying in bed being like, man, one of the reasons I want my boys to like, and my daughter to understand like the gospel, the hope that's in the gospel, and then the understanding of why the Bible matters in light of the gospel is a lot of the Bible's like basically a guidebook for our hearts. Like if you want to know how our hearts work, like read what God says about us and about him. And like, it'll show us how to be healthy and well, not as a list of rules to follow, but as reasons for why we do what God says. And I feel a lot of times, man, I should have chosen B. I chose A, and I didn't realize that B was the best. I often made the wrong choice on purpose, but I don't see the consequence of that. Like, it's not like the hammer drops right away. It's, oh, like that really set me up emotionally. So a very specific example I would use would be like, all right, in middle school and high school, I knew that I should practice writing. I knew that I should. I know that I was told by my parents, I was told by my teachers, I was given poor grades to reflect my lack of effort. And I just didn't care because I was getting good enough. Like my goal was finish and move on. And as an adult, I am paying for that.
Yeah.
Right? Like 20 years later. And I became a language arts teacher. I knew it well enough to teach 8th graders. But when it comes to like getting my ideas concisely down, I hear Mrs. Aylard, my high school English teacher, just loved. She was gentle and sweet and kind. She never like harped on me or just like yelled at me, but was always like, you're better than this. You need to do steps 1, 2, and 3. And like literally steps 1, 2, and 3 are now what I'm doing.
Yeah.
At 39.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that idea of like, it's not a video game. I didn't find that out 15 minutes later. Like I found that out 2 decades later. And
Yeah.
I think that idea, just with what you were saying, is like, it is really powerful. And that's honestly one of my, as we can transition the conversation from like, what's awesome about video games? Well, storyline, challenge, interaction, the power of the narrative is amazing. And I think one of my concerns is the narrative is so powerful, it can be hard to move past. One of the explanations I hear from a lot of people like, well, why a game is because it's such a powerful experience. And it's not just the Call of Duty people. It's not just the people that are getting the fast drip dopamine or the instant wins, but real life and real relationships, I don't know that they're always that powerful. Like compared to some of the video game relationships, they feel a little mundane, if that makes sense.
I could see where you're coming from, but from the person who came out on the good end of this, because I definitely was that at some point. I wasn't like looking for the dopamine hit of like the next like Valorant win or whatever.
Yeah.
But I from like 2014, so since I was 13, I like played like my first game that like impacted me like emotionally, and I've like always looked for games like that since.
Yeah.
And I guess I did like just kind of fall into a point of like that was how I lived, was the emotion I got from that. But at some point I guess I just kind of snapped out of it.
Okay.
I'm at the point where I can't pinpoint what caused it.
Sure. Yeah.
But I don't know. For me now, I think stuff like that, like Kentucky Route Zero or Before Your Eyes or That Dragon Cancer or something like that, it just makes me think about my existence more. And I do think it, for me personally, like it does, I can think of actionable steps like from those games that I can think of that I've taken away.
Yeah.
Like I like even like shows and stuff. I feel like I've gone the same way. Like from this, I've have tried to steer away from just playing a game because I think I should,
right,
or because my friends are playing it, even though I don't like it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like the most impactful quote in my gaming life comes from Reggie Fils-Aimé, the retired CEO of Nintendo of America. It was during like PAX or E3, I think, when it was the time where they're announcing all their new games for the year.
Yeah.
He just comes on screen. He's like, the game is fun. If the game's not fun, why bother?
Yeah.
And that's the quote. And that's, I don't know, I think anyone who plays games should live by that and should figure out in their mind what a fun game looks like.
Yeah.
For me, it is a game that I can get really good at, that has a challenge, and I prefer single player games for that, not multiplayer.
Yeah.
Something that I myself can get really good at, or something that is like narratively interesting.
Yeah, which for me, that was growing up would be like Myst. Like those are the OG, like walk into a room and try to solve all the puzzles, right? They're interactive. And I can hear that. And I think that I absolutely love that. I think that those are all the positive, like those are the best parts of games. My encouragement to parents always, and as we think of this video games in a big picture, and as we have two individuals having this conversation who come from different sides of being able to play games, making sure that games are healthy for yourself, parents and listeners, and healthy for your child and for your friends. The reset is the way that I've made like a little acronym. There's lots of ways to assess your health, but really like the idea of like, is this improving or impeding your relationships and responsibilities, your emotions, your sleep, your enjoyment, your time? And as long as it's improving, and it's making you more of who you can be, like that's awesome. If it's impeding, something needs to change. Maybe it's just the game, maybe it's the time of day, maybe it's how often, I don't know what it is, but you don't want to be both on the habitual like brain development side. You don't want to be making neural pathways to bad habits. And on the spiritual development side, like our time isn't our own. When we've been bought with Christ, we now live in him. And the days we have are meant to be for his glory. And as Micah's very eloquently pointed out, absolutely, these powerful narratives can help us see aspects of life and experiences that we won't experience in real life, just like a normal story we would read. And they can also be so engrossing that they actually kind of seem more awesome. Which would be me in Animal Crossing if I was still playing games.
I'd love to go to just some abandoned island where I don't have to worry about food or money with a bunch of cute animals and just build a house.
Yeah,
and decorate it as I want.
Chill. Yeah, exactly. The Sims was my jam.
Yeah.
And so I think just to transition, if I were to say like some concerns I have with games, and I won't be too like grumpy on this, folks, but I do think that to play honestly off the points that Micah made is when they don't play like games. Meaning, and I would put an asterisk in this because Micah has brought up multiple awesome like narrative games like Myst where they don't have really a fail option. It's just a matter of like, it'll take you more time. It might end up differently than you desire, but like you will get through it because it's more about that narrative experience. So
because like what we're talking about, because like the textbook definition of a game, like at the bare minimum, it has to have a win state and a fail state. In most games, that means you win the match, or you beat the boss, or you die.
Right.
That like death is the most common fail state in a game.
Right. And so the narrative ones don't have a fail state because you generally finish the story at some point. And I do believe that's. Halo does that. Like many of these games don't actually have a fail state because they want you to beat it. It's meant to be that experience. I would say one of my frustrations is when they don't. If you were to break that down even further, games have to have a goal, something you're trying to accomplish. So Pong, you were trying to get it past your opponent's paddle. They have to have rules you follow, and this goes for every game. I mean, this is from bocce to cube to baseball. Like when you're like, well, you have to throw a baseball past the batter. Like, well, I'm going to throw it really high. No, it has to be between the shoulders and the knees. Like, fine, I'm going to throw it way over here. No, it has to go over a plate. Like, there's rules that you have to obey to play this game, and that's true in digital games as well. And then there's a victory condition, which is how do you know if you won or lost? And there are games that they use those, but then they break those because the attention expires, and people will only play the game for a week or 3 weeks or a month and a half. And then at some point they've done the stuff and the game's over and they're like, okay, like I did my thing. I beat the game or I accomplished the story and now I'm going to move on. And the game developer's like, yeah, but we're not okay with that because we want more money out of you.
Yeah, because we don't want to make a new game that you want to play.
Right. We just want you to use this one.
Yeah. And because games are doing that. Like before, you'd buy a game disc.
Yep.
Play the game for anywhere from...
A game cassette, you mean?
Yes. You'd buy like a disc or a cartridge.
Yeah.
Play the game for 5 to 20 hours, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then you're done. And then you'd be like, what game should I buy next paycheck? But now it's like... And then there were exceptions. It's like World of Warcraft.
I think that's a great example, which will be in my next example of things. But yes, exactly.
Yes. But
they don't have...
Games now, they're not... They're like Call of Duty. They still make one every year.
Yes,
but like I can still go play the one from 4 years ago, and spend my money on it in more ways than one. And like the games are now being supported past launch.
Yes.
So they used to just come out, maybe there was updates to fix some issues with it, but that was it.
Yeah.
If there was ever more content, it was basically like a bite-sized little expansion.
Or a full separate game. I mean,
Yeah.
Frozen Throne for Warcraft 3 was like a separate game that you purchased, and you needed the original game to play it.
Yeah, but like that's the DLC model. It stands for downloadable content. It was basically game expansions. It was more playable content. And WoW, it was like, there's this new section of the map, and there's new like raids and new bosses you can fight, new enemies. There's a new playable character type. In like something like Far Cry, there would be like, so you have this island you explore, play that, and like now there's this sub island that we added that has its own story that's like an extra 4 hours of content, and pay $15 for it.
Right.
But now the DLC has become microtransactions, which we've talked about before. That's the buying skins, buying outfits, that kind of stuff.
Or just straight up paying to win.
Yeah, or just paying to get good items.
Yeah, and I love shouting out Diablo Immortal on that, because they've made themselves a meme, so they deserve all the recognition they've earned. And so, but when you break those three, when it's not just a game anymore, and you add things to it to try to get people to return almost against their will. I mean, this is using behavioral psychology to its max. The book Hooked by Nir Eyal does a great job, where basically you have a trigger, which might be like, I'm bored, or it might be a notification, or it might just be you load it up and the level shows up and you click on it. And then like from your trigger, you have your action, then you have a variable reward, then you have your investment, and that makes you more likely to respond to the trigger the next time.
Yeah, I mean, that happened to me. The game series Destiny by Bungie.
Yeah.
I do not like that game.
I don't think we've talked about this.
I've never really enjoyed that game. It's fine.
Yeah,
but
you had friends who loved it.
But yeah, the only reason I played it is because all my friends played it. And that's not a hyperbole. All of my friends played it. There was a point in time where that's the only way I could hang out with them.
Yeah.
That translates to me playing that game series for almost 8 years and spending money on every expansion and Destiny 2 when it came out, and playing several hundred hours of a game I don't like. And I've stopped playing it now as I've grown up and realized that I hate this game. And also because my friends have grown up alongside me, and we realized that we can just hang out.
I was going to ask you about that.
I don't know. We were young. We felt like we needed a catalyst to hang out.
Yeah.
We couldn't. We were just uncomfortable just being in like a Xbox party or a Discord call and just talking.
Yeah. Yeah, or being in person. That was another option.
Yeah.
But it's true. It is something that takes practice. I guess I was going to ask you that exact question, and maybe you could expand on it. I get a lot of parents who are like, well, all of my kids' friends play X game. Mm-hmm. And I've seen this work out in multiple people's lives, but I'd love to hear kind of your thoughts first person. What would you say to that family? Like, if 8 years on, you're out $1,000, but you're still friends with these people without the game. What would you say if there's 7 friends who play this game? They're not hanging out with friend number 8 unless friend number 8 plays the game. So it's kind of a friend of circumstance in this situation.
Yeah.
Should friend number 8 play that game?
It's hard because you never want to be left out.
Yeah.
That's why I played Destiny.
Yeah.
Because it was literally, I would want to play like something else. And
but no one's going to come with you.
Yeah, they'd probably play it for like a day, but they'd always be like, hey, you want to play this? It's like, no, I'm playing Destiny.
Yeah.
So it's just hard. It's a hard thing to answer because it doesn't just hinder on you. Like if you're friend 8, it doesn't just hinder on you. Unless you are quite compelling to your friends, you know? It requires them to be like emotionally and socially aware of the situation as well, to know that them only playing this game, that's the only context they hang out with, is ostracizing you.
Yeah.
And like you can communicate that, but like I don't know, communicating like a feeling as like weird like that when you're like young is hard.
It's really hard, right? And that's, I think, what I find so frustrating is, man, we're putting these kids in positions like it's hard to just be a friend and have a friend in middle school. Like if you get 1 or 2, like that's epic.
Yeah, it's hard to find a friend that is your like just your friend.
Yes.
Like I've had like everyone did this. like I always had friends that I'd talk to, and I thought we were like best friends. And the second we're out of school, I don't think about them ever. Right. And the second we come back to school, I'm like, oh, what's up?
Yeah, friends of context.
Yeah.
Right?
And now that I'm out of high school, I haven't thought about them in 2 years.
Yeah, and that's not. I don't think it's bad. Anna and I actually had a whole conversation about friends, like your track friends, right? Like I ran track, and I was friends with like a really specific group of people, and if I saw them again, we would get along. Yeah, but like we don't call each other up. Yeah, or hang out.
But I don't know. Those type of friends, I think, are easier to realize than like your friends of circumstance, gaming friends.
Yeah,
because
you're around all the time.
Because you're around them way more than like if you just hang out with them at school. Yeah. And you're doing something. I don't know. I feel like a very personal connection to almost every game I play. So it's like a personal experience for me.
Yeah.
So I feel in some way, no matter what, as simple as game as it could be, I feel like bonded to my friends when I play games with them.
You have a shared experience. You have a shared adventure. I totally get that. It's a shared challenge you overcame together. It's very different than we watched a movie of someone else overcoming. Yeah. Like, we did that raid. We did that thing. I feel that with, old school, like Final Fantasy 3/6 was like played with my best friend Jared and my cousin Corey. And like, we are like, those are still really fond memories. And like, that's how we built those relationships. So I'm not downsizing that. And I wanted to ask that that's a side note, not my main point.
It's it's just hard.
Yeah,
like,
it is hard.
I don't know if I even have an answer really.
Well, thanks for sharing. I think that I don't know. I bet some people hearing this feel heard, especially as the parents watching their kids do it. Parents don't have the right answer, and the kids are still wrestling. And I will say the young people that I've witnessed go through that in the longitudinal run, the friends that were worth keeping found a way to still be friends. Yeah, and a lot of the friends expired with the interest in that game when it quit getting updated or whatever, got moved onto a new server, and I caution parents when that argument is used, because it tends to be it tends to be more of a friends of convenience and not someone who's going to really be there for a kid. I don't know. Okay, can I share another caution? Yeah, go ahead. With the game. So I want to actually share a really specific example because that may not have made sense. Things that add extra layers to games to make them playable. That was my annoying when they're not just the goal, the rules, the victory condition. Call of Duty, which you brought up. Yeah. Prestige classes is like the medal reward system. So listeners, that means that you play a game. Let's say you can get 40 levels. You get those by playing multiplayer and playing story mode. You gain XP. You level up. You get to level 40. They'll give you the option to cash in your 40 levels for Prestige Class 1. You go back to level 0. You get a couple perks. You can repeat that depending on the version of Call of Duty like 8 or 9 times. And what they do is they'll give you bonuses for playing online. Like, if you get 7 kills this match with a pistol, like you'll get X number of extra points. So there's replayability built back in without any extra levels, any extra bosses, any extra programming on their end. And then it also builds that behavioral loop of investment where once you've prestige class 2 or 3, why not go to 4? Because it's something to do, even though you don't enjoy the game, even though it's not fun anymore, as Micah pointed out. Like, if it's not fun, quit playing it. It's literally a game. It should be fun. But these pieces basically entrap young people, especially. Young people will be playing a game. Do you still enjoy this game? You can ask them, do you like this game? And they'll be like, no. Why are you still playing it? I don't know. Like, I was bored. And like, that answer is fair. What they're saying is when they get bored, the thing they've practiced most is going back to this resource, and it alleviates some of the boredom, even if they don't like it. Like Micah said, playing a game for 8 years because friends are there, even if you don't like the game. And so we just want to be intentional. And that's one of the things I get annoyed at. That's a more modern thing that isn't in old form games. They would, like Micah said, Mario, you're going to play it for 30 minutes, beat it, or lose enough that you quit. And then leave and go do something else, even if it is play a different game. The second thing, I don't like it when games don't end. Again, breaking one of the 3 things games are supposed to do. They are supposed to have an end. I don't love it. Even like the longest running tabletop games, like Dungeons and Dragons, has an end. You have to start a new character at some point. Yeah. Because they die of old age. The
characters do age in that game.
Yeah. Like yes, it could be a long time. People play characters for years, but there's an expiration, and in some of these games there's not. So you brought up World of Warcraft. That would be an excellent example.
Yeah, I would actually technically just play that game forever.
You can play it forever, and that's by design. There is, of course, an end game, but the end game always comes back to max loot. but the next DLC, but chances to
you
raid.
you have done everything, but you're only one character in one class
They're on one server.
On one server, why not start another character on this server or another character on that server?
Yeah, and pay a monthly fee. I don't love that. I understand the concept. It is cool. One of my great gripes is with Minecraft. Yes, I know that I'm hot taking Minecraft, but I will throw it out there because it isn't just Legos. That's why Dr. Christakis from the Seattle Children's Research Institute said it's one of the most unhealthy games he's witnessed young people play because of its scope. So you can build so much, you can build so fast, you can go so far. The storyline constantly gives you little goals, and those little goals are incentive to come up and try to do that. Like, let's see if we can do it. There's a lot of positives. I don't love them. My number one issue with it is the amount of time that just about any player is willing to invest and the amount of outcome you will get from that. Again, hot take. I would say if you're going to do a private server and you're going to host your own stuff and you're going to have it in basically just creative mode, okay, it's just a giant sandbox at that point. And I think sandboxes have a wonderful amount of expiration. So they do technically have an end because it's called you just get tired of it. But that's my second thing that bothers me about games. Parents, I would encourage you to look for games that don't have an end because there's a reason. And usually it's because dissatisfaction with reality. We are called to be present in reality, not escaping from it. It's one of the big reasons we're not supposed to get drunk, folks, and high. Like, the problem with that is it removes us from reality and removes our capacity that we were designed for, which is to love others and to love God with all we are. So that's a frustration to me. And then I think, I don't know. I think the last one I'll just say is that games that aren't what they say they are, like Doom and Diablo, are what they say they are. Like, if you want to go kill some demons, like, go play those games. They're very clear. There are some games that kind of tried to pose as other things. I think you actually did a nice Far Cry would be an example of not Far Cry. Oh my goodness, I'm forgetting it now. Yeah, Far Cry 5, where a game is supposed to be like a first-person shooter, but it also has like these weird like underbelly horror elements. So I get annoyed when games aren't what they're sold to be. Or even BioShock. Like, BioShock is like, oh, this is a cool adventure game, but all of the BioShocks have like this really interesting, like, powerful narrative setting about faith and religion that isn't at all even-handed. And I'm like, well, that's interesting, but
the BioShock games kind of just use it as an aesthetic more than like a narrative catalyst. I think
Fallout uses it as an aesthetic. Like, there's an aesthetic of like, oh, powerful corporations, powerful religious groups. Like, there's kind of some cults.
Yeah,
like,
that's what I think BioShock does. Especially in Infinite, the story of Infinite doesn't necessarily revolve around the white nationalist religious cult of the game.
No, you literally have to murder yourself in order to be able to win the game.
Yeah, but I don't think that has anything to do with the religion.
In a baptism. You have to drown your character in a baptism, and it's an infinite number of iterations of yourself that you're drowning as the cult leader. And in that, never once in an infinite number of iterations do you ever have a good version of yourself. You're always the horrible white cult leader who has to be drowned in a baptism by multiple versions of another character in the story.
It's been a while since I played BioShock.
It's really troubling. And so I get it. I understand that religion is a really impactful piece. I think that people have some access to grind, and that bothers me. I like, just be what you're going to be. Like, I get it. So with that being said, video games can be amazing.
They can be so good.
They can be. My family's still wrestling with what that's going to look like. I'm opting for board games because they're lower pace. They still have cool narrative, and they can be challenging and interactive. And it's really hard for me to overplay them. And as long as I can encourage my boys to find them exciting and interesting, we're going to keep doing that. But video games are awesome. If you guys like games, I'd love to hear from you. Micah would love to hear from you. Micah, you're not actually on the socials right now, are you?
No.
So you can just reach out to me, guys, and I'll send a note. Do you have an email or something you want to pass along?
Nope.
All right. Okay. So reach out to me, Nathan at gospeltech.net. We're on Instagram and Facebook at Love God Use Tech. And we may or may not have future episodes from here. We had committed to 4.
Yep.
We're at 4. We have other ideas, but real life happens. But excited.
Yeah, we might make this a season 1.
Yeah. Yes, season 1. All right, you heard it here first, folks. There may be a season 2.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for listening. Thanks for being a part of this, and we hope that this has encouraged you, challenged you, informed, and entertained you, and that you'll join us in the future as we continue to talk about what the tech.
Yeah. I hope you have a new perspective on gaming in general.
Yeah. So with that, folks, join us next time.